Welcome back to Westeros, in the land where everyone has a cool name and about 50% of them will die before they eat breakfast. But before we get into all that and the mud and the blood of this show, let's talk a little bit about the magic that's happening behind the scenes. Now, we have to understand that HBO is currently playing a high stakes game of how much we can shave off this bill. Now, while House of the Dragon was burning probably around $20 million per episode, mostly on dragon insurance and blonde hair dye, this show is testing if the universe can survive on a Hedge Knight's budget. They are basically betting that they can trade in CGI dragons for two guys wandering through the woods. This is basically their version of the Mandalorian, but instead of a cute little green baby, we get the Game of Thrones version of Stewie from Family Guy.
Yeah, that's what happens. Where's my money?
Right from the beginning, they want you to know that this isn't your regular Game of Thrones show. And they do this by trying to set the tone that when we hear the iconic Game of Thrones music, our hero, Dunk, literally takes a dump at that time on everything that we have seen before and everything we are about to see. I guess it's just their way of saying they are getting back to the basics. And the basics, I guess, is nature will take its course. We see our hero Dunk stop at an inn, and the innkeeper possibly drops the most honest line that this show has ever said in any of its other episodes combined.
Half the town's gone down the Tourney. Mine would too if I allowed it. Swear I couldn't tell you why. Knights are built the same as other men. And I never knew a joust to change the price of eggs.
At its core, this is what this show is all about. While the lords are off playing who has the biggest lance, the common people, the small folk, they're just trying to figure out their way to get breakfast to cost a little bit less than it did the day before. And whether it's 209 AC in a fantasy world or 2026 in the real world, the common man is still arguing over the price of eggs today, while the elite all just play their games. Let's talk about the history and the symbols that make the inner nerd inside of us all just drool. First, the timeline. We are sitting about 78 years after the dragons died out in House of the Dragon, and roughly a century before Ned Stark lost his head. The guy on the Iron Throne at this time is Daeron II, and that's Daenerys' great-great-grandpappy. The Targaryens are still in charge, but without dragons, they have to send their sons attorneys to prance them around all of the other High Lords' daughters to make these daughters swoon and want to marry them, allow them to join the family, and that will keep them in power. Let's talk about the great houses and the sigils. First, we're introduced to House Fossaway, the apple. The red apple, to be specific, and this will come into play later. Dunk meets Steffon Fossaway, a knight who basically reminds us that noble does not mean nice. He spars with his cousin Ray, and they just can't stop calling each other all these goddamn fruit puns. You hear him say he's ripe or rotten to the core. Always keep an eye on the color of those apples. Alright, next we are introduced to Lionel Baratheon. He is the heir to Storm's End. He's basically presented as this cool jock wearing this antler crown, and he is a direct ancestor of our beloved Robert Baratheon and Stannis Baratheon, and you can see the hammer swinging, alcohol drinking DNA runs deep in House Baratheon, but he does give Dunk some good advice.
Seven above gave you tallness, so be tall.
Basically telling him to stop trying to hide, be proud of the physical gifts you were given, and use them to your advantage. Let people see you. Stop trying to hide. We heard the same advice given by Olenna Tyrell to Daenerys Targaryen.
The lords of Westeros are sheep. Are you a sheep? No. You're a dragon. Be a dragon.
House Dondarrion. Dunk tries to get Manfred Dondarrion to vouch for him. This is the ancestor of Beric Dondarrion. You know, the guy with the flaming sword who kept coming back to life in Game of Thrones. Their sigil is the forked lightning, and this comes from an ancestor who was literally saved by a lightning bolt during a Dornish ambush. The Blackwood Bracken connection. Basically the Hatfields and McCoys of Westeros. Ser Arlan, who was Dunk's mentor, was from the village of Pennytree, and that village has basically ping-pong balled itself between House Bracken and House Blackwood. These two have been killing each other since the dawn of time, and we've seen some of this in the House of the Dragon during the Burning Mill. Episode recap. The line, "fake it until you make it," is something that should be the house line of Sir Duncan the Tall. Sir Duncan is a self-proclaimed Hedge Knight, which is just a fancy way of saying you ain't got a job.
Tommy, what? Everybody in the audience knows damn well you ain't got no job.
After his mentor dies, Dunk inherits his sword and his 3 horses. At the end, a drunken man in red robes who claims to have dreamed of Dunk leaves behind a gold dragon coin. Now, this just isn't pocket change. It's a high-value coin minted by the crown itself, and it's a huge contrast to the copper penny Dunk usually counts. Now, we can see that if they're wearing red robes in Westeros or in this world, most likely they have something to do with the Red God.
Look to your sins, Lord Renly. The night is dark and full of terrors.
Along the way, Dunk meets a little bald-headed boy that calls himself Egg. And this boy is supposedly an orphan, but Dunk doesn't pick up on it that he speaks very well for an orphan boy. When Dunk finds Egg trying to, let's say, borrow his armor, he tosses him a copper. Egg insists on being Dunk's squire. Dunk tries to say no, but Egg has the persistence of a damn telemarketer or a mattress salesperson. So is Dunk actually a knight? He claims Ser Arlan did it before he died, but the only witness was a robin in the tree, and we know that he died before he seen this robin in the tree. So we know that he is not a knight. And in the Westeros, if your only reference is a letter or a bird, the HR director, which at this particular time is the master of games, are gonna have some follow-up questions, which we see happen here in this episode. Dunk's biggest issue, besides someone saying that he is a knight and vouching for him, is the tournament itself, because when you deal with a tournament like this, it's basically a pawn shop, right? Because you have to give up all of your horses, you have to give up your armor, and the only way to get it back is to give money for it back. So it's basically a big old pawn shop going on here at Westeros. And Dunk, if he loses, is going to lose it all because he has no money. But these people he's going up against, they have the best training. They have been doing this for a long time. So it looks like in the end, Dunk doesn't have much of a chance to win this. Looking for House Dondarrion so he can get someone to vouch for him, saying that he knows that his old master was a knight, he runs into 2 red-headed whores, and these chicks don't have any respect for him because they know he don't have a job.
Hey, Tommy, you of all people don't need to be getting involved with some woman who's unemployed, man.
The difference between a hedge knight and a sellsword is one thing, and that's honor. And this is supposedly the most honorable of knights, the hedge knight, because they are not reliant on one lord and they don't lick the lord's boot to do their bidding. And that is what Dunk is. He is a man of honor compared to a lot of the people that we see in this show who have traded their honor for riches, just like these women have traded their bodies for coin. Dunk's honor is not for sale. He will not violate the things that he was brought up on in order to get ahead. He's not that type of guy. And although a lot of these lords, just about every one of them, have better swordsmanship than him, they had the best training, there's one thing that Dunk has that they don't have.
Ruthless aggression.
You can have all that fancy training you want, and if someone is going to engage you in a fight like that, then you definitely have the advantage. But when you're sleeping outside, and you're wiping your ass with leaves all the time, and you're taking power shits outside, and you're not eating, and it's starving, and it means that much to you, you get that ruthless aggression, that built up anger, that when the going gets tough, when it comes down to it and you got to bite on your mouthpiece and fight, Dunk has that ability to do that more than all of these lords do. When the going gets tough, what are they going to want to do? Run back to the castle. Dunk has no castle to run back to. It's either do or die. And when you have that mentality, you are a hard person to beat, especially when you have that much size advantage over all these people. The next scene is a peculiar one, something that does not happen in the books. It would seem, from what I'm looking at here, a woman pretending to be dead, a whore pretending to be dead, that this Lord Dondarrion has a fetish of fucking dead bodies, and that's what she is setting up for. But something interesting here happens when Dunk has a conversation with these ladies, and they basically try to make him out of being a type of a whore, just like them, but instead of selling their body, he's selling his sword. Now, that would be a sellsword, somebody with no honor, and Dunk is a man with honor, so he is not like that. They will sleep with anyone who has the right amount of coin. Dunk will not just follow any lord because they are paying him. We then see Dunk do what a lot of people do during this time period, and that is take in the play. And the play they are performing is The Legend of Serwyn. Serwyn basically pulls a Perseus, because in this Legend of Serwyn, who lived all the way back before the Age of Heroes, he supposedly tricked the dragon by showing it his own reflection in a mirrored shield, and that allowed him to stab the dragon with his spear and kill him, just like we've seen Perseus do something like that similar to Medusa. But what this really does set up is the woman that is in there that is performing at this time, who will become a love interest for Dunk later on in this series. Nearing the end of the episode, we get something that we normally don't see in a lot of Game of Thrones. Now, House of the Dragon, they tried to do a dance scene, and they tried to show the royals living regular, but it was still the royal ball. They set this up more like a house party, like Kid and Play is about to come over there and start doing their thing with Dunk, and also Baratheon. Now, when Baratheon was there trying to stomp on Dunk's feet, you can clearly see that Dunk only has it for a little bit until he stomps back on his feet. And that is very important because this guy is so much higher up on the level than Dunk, but Dunk still did not care and stomped on his foot. We also see that Dunk does know his role, because when he's sitting there with Baratheon, he acts like his cupbearer. When Baratheon raises his glass, Dunk does grab something and pour it into his glass for him. So he does know his role, but that does not limit him to who he is, because Dunk is bound by honor. At the end of the episode, we see a fallen star, and Egg tells Dunk that because they're outside and all the other lords and the knights are inside, they're not looking up at the stars like they're looking up at the stars, and that means that the wish, that the luck is on their side. Now, the falling star in Westeros means a whole lot of things. We know Daenerys said that the falling star, when she seen it, meant that her dragon's going to come back. To a lot of other people, it means death is going to come back to them. So it means different things to different people, so you just can't base one thing. But it's what they're trying to do is show you the benefits of being a knight, of someone sleeping outside. Listen, I like camping. I love being outside in the woods and having that nature. So I think that that's what they're going for here, that he has that raw barbarian aggression and that raw nature, and it's going to serve him well over these hoity-toity, if I haven't had a better word to say, people that we see in this show. But you tell me what you think about this show. I think that they are treading a very thin line of comedy and trying to be serious. And that line can be crossed at any time, and it may go bad if they cross the line too much. Right now, to me, I'm not offended by the stuff that the jokes that they did. I thought it was funny, and I thought that they're walking that line. But I can see them going from that to silly real quick. And once you reach that silly stage, then I cannot take you seriously anymore as a show, and then the stakes aren't as high. But you tell me what you think. Do you like the Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Do you think it's going well? And will be HBO, or should I say Netflix, be able to do a lower budget show like this and keep you interested in it? And if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, spread this across the realm, and subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.